honestly, calls are good on. Well, you can just find something that shows what how you did class back when you did the application. So that was and then your workplace and maintenance or something. Well, no, it's actually on our application. But most things, I was shocked. We're gonna be fine. I'm not worried about it all. But I thought that with the food going around, you never know. I thought I had files I could leave it on my desk and you could use it. We're going to go through and ask Tommy questions, and he may even ask you to scan it. No, it's in electronically. That's why I'm going to check with everything. I'm going to check this to when it's recorded, when it comes to or if you're leaving or the council and we got purchase and agree. So, yeah. It's that. We're good. And I'm not going to be Thursday, Friday because we're with my dad back to the apartment. So I'm trying to get some things wrapped up. Why would they give us?
Okay, ready on the right? Ready on the right? Ready on the left? Ready, Mike?
Yes, we did not process I know now.
Are we ready on the left? Dad, you ready?
I'm ready, sir.
Councilmember Groovy, you ready? Counselor, you ready? Well, let the record show it's 4 minutes after 6, and I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Durant City Council on February the 13th, 2018. I'd like to call upon Chief Joins, if he would, to lead us under invocation. If you would, please stand and remain standing for our flag salute led by the Vice Mayor, Ted Hitchcock.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the many blessings you've given to us and to our city, Lord. And I pray that you'll be with each councilman tonight as they make tough decisions and decisions that will affect the citizens of the community, Lord. And I pray that you'll just help them to lean to you for the answers and direction. Lord, I pray for the servicemen that are protecting our country and that have paid the price for us, Lord. And pray that you go out to their family and them and comfort them and just watch over them tonight and just be with us in all that we do, Lord. And thank you for these councilmen that volunteer their time for the city, Lord, for the betterment of us. And I pray that you bless them for doing it. In your name we pray.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We will have a council member not present this evening, Councilman Hawthorne, and he has a very legitimate excused absence in order for his family this evening. The clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne is absent. Councilmember Gruby? Here. Councilmember Dills?
Here.
Councilmember Hitchcock?
Here.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Here. For the record, we do have one council member absent. We still have a quorum. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I think this past weekend, and I don't see them here, but the Mission of Mercy, the dental assistance that was provided here by a number of our state and local dentists and citizens, and what a turnout they had. And on behalf of the city of Durant, we want to commend all those. If you played a part in that, thank you so much. There were, I don't know the numbers, but a few thousand people provided dental services. See Dr. Hutchinson. But what a great deal for our city and for the citizens that volunteered to help in that. We applaud all of them. And I want to particularly thank Dr. Jason and Chasdy Carper for their time and effort that they put into that over the last several weeks. And anyway, we applaud them and thank them for that.
Mr. Mayor, Dr. Carper is here, by the way.
Yeah, several minutes.
Well, I'm glad I said good things about you, Jason. Welcome. And hey, would you like to elaborate any? Can you confirm any of the numbers, Jason?
The numbers on it were, they saw 987 patients. We had like 1,500 volunteers. They did like 1.4 million in dental work.
Wow.
And about $1,200, $1,300 per patient. So they did some good stuff. They didn't see a lot of number of patients. They did a lot on those people. So
yeah.
It's good.
Thank you. And thank you, Chadley. Our first order of business this evening is our consent docket. And we have items 1A through H. Are there any consent items to be removed for further consideration? And our consent docket is kind of not generic, but routine items that don't require maybe discussion or questions and are pretty much routine. However, if a council member wishes to, or has any questions or wishes to discuss any of the consent items, we remove those for consideration under item number 2. Are there any items to be removed?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remove number D.
D is in Delta.
D is in dog.
Okay. Are there any others? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
Move to approve the remainder of the consent.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries, which will take us then to item number 2, and that will be 2D. And 2D will be consider approval of a budget amendment, 2018-04. Councilmember Groby, you had a question?
Yes, item number 1683, it says move DIA expenses from consult to contract labor. What is that?
Assistant Treasurer Michelle?
Good evening. That is our contract with Paul Bunce, and it's just a housekeeping matter. As we created the purchase order to pay that contract and those invoices, we created it in the line item of contract labor. In the budget, it had actually been put in the consultation line, so it's just to move that money. It's not any additional funds. It's just a housekeeping item. Is that it? Is that your question?
Well, I got one on
Okay.
next one too.
Sure.
Number 1685, adjust lodging tax expense to accommodate contract with Chamber of Commerce. What kind of contract do we have with the Chamber of Commerce?
We don't have any contract with the Chamber of Commerce. That's for the hotel and the lodging tax. That authority, they run their own budget. This is just another housekeeping item. They approve their own budget. It's actually called a financial plan since it is an authority. So that's a contract between the authority and the Chamber of Commerce. It's not with the city. We just administer their budget, if
We
you
are
will.
just the conduit for the,
Yes, sir. We're just kind of the housekeeping to follow their wishes. Is that all?
That's all. I might say next time, I wish you'd make it a little bit bigger because I had to get this to read that page.
I apologize.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Michelle.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion on 2D? If not, entertain a motion.
I move that we approve those D, number 1683 and 1685.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Just a point of clarification, there are several numbers there. I think maybe the motion just should be for the budget amendment 2018-04. Would that be more?
I make a motion that we approve the consent item.
I have a motion and
Second.
and I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Which takes us to item number 3 on the agenda, if you're following. Under administration, 3A, to consider approval of ordinance 1844, amending the Durant Code of Ordinances, adding section 96.022, 96.023, 96.024, 96.025, and 96.058 animals, providing for an emergency. Mr. Matt?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Mayor,
Good
Council, good to be with everybody. So this is to provide for new opportunities. Dog parks have been discussed, but there's no language in ordinances allowing for that. So this has detailed information about the parameters under which a dog park could function and those who enter the dog park and how and with how many animals. As well, it describes it defines the idea of a kennel and how many dogs, cats can each respectively be in on a premises, a home, for example. And that is this ordinance.
What, does it change any, or does it change any existing, or is this just adding language?
These are all additions. This is a completely new ordinance. The next item on the agenda, it actually, it's a housekeeping item that corrects any conflicts in the existing ordinances.
Any questions for Matt? Not entertain a motion. For ordinance 1844.
Approve it.
A motion to approve, and that'd be section 1. And we have a second.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Need a motion for section 2.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, item number 3B. Consider approval of ordinance 1845, amending the Durant Code of Ordinances, sections 96.001, 96.005, 96.008, 96.025, 96.042, 96.998, also providing for an emergency. Mr. Matt?
Yes, sir. So in continuation with the previous item, the newly adopted ordinance that provides for new things to our code, this is a housekeeping item. First, there's a red line copy of what was actually changed, the specific words that were taken out and new that were put in. The only in passing through conversation with multiple departments, because this took place before my arrival, but was discussed with police department, animal control, all of the other entities that deal with animals in our jurisdiction. This also provides for swine, miniature pigs, which have been a fad lately. So that's the only item that was added to this ordinance that was not included in the previous item. But the clean copy is after the red line copy. So I'm here for any questions.
So just to be clear,
Mhm.
and this isn't very reader friendly for me either. The miniature pigs thing,
Mm-hmm.
we have for lack of a better word, a contingency for that. Is there, they allowed as I read this?
Correct. That
Under
under
certain
size
Yeah.
and weight and age. For instance, there shall not be more than 2 miniature pigs in excess of 6 months of age, and then size is also limited as
Okay.
well. So they can be recreational pets at that
Gotcha.
on that parameter.
Council have any questions for Matt? Any discussion? Hearing none, do we have a motion for section 1 and section?
Move to approve sections 1 through 6.
I second.
A motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for section 7.
So moved.
Motion? And we need a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3C, consider approval of Resolution 2018-03 to enter into right-of-way, public utility, and encroachment agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation in connection with the construction of a public project known as project number J3-1855, parentheses, 004, job number 31855, parentheses, 04, construction, parentheses, 05, R/W, parentheses, 06, utilities, contract number C-2018-08. I get that right, Marty?
Very good. Nice work. Good evening, guys. So this is, and I might add that this and the next item both are dealing with the same area. This is actually for road work that ODOT is going to do between the Highway 70 bypass and the south end of Calera. So this is mostly south of our town. Now, from Sports City Cafe, as you know, where the city limits kind of start, through Choctaw intersection and then up to the bypass are in our city limits. And so they're notifying us and right-of-ways and encroachments for water, sewer lines, and the lights. We still maintain the lights out at Choctaw. Depending on how that overpass turns out, they may divide and separate those lights, but I would assume we would probably still finish with those lights under our control as well. But both of these are just for that particular project. It's all going to be happening between the south end of the bypass and the south end of Calera.
Any questions for Marty? I guess this is pretty routine.
Yeah, it came straight from ODOT. Same thing we see generally when we go through these. It actually came city clerk. Me and her discussed it and looked at it real close, and then obviously had to bring it to you guys.
Council have any questions for Marty? Any discussion?
Marty, why is there a resolution and a contract on here? Isn't there usually separate items? Do we need to have a motion for each one, or there's a contract at the bottom, there's a resolution at the top?
Actually, I don't know. Cindy put these on here.
Well,
Okay,
Let's get her clarification.
yes, the item 3C is for the resolution. Item 3D is for the contract itself.
See that? I see that
Okay,
now.
little clarification.
just want to make sure before.
No, that's good.
Good question, sir.
That's my one of the night, my one good question.
It's one of those that me and Cindy share duties on. We don't always read each other's minds. Sometimes.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion for resolution 2018-03.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Takes us to item 3D, and that is to consider approval of right-of-way, public utility and encroachment agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation C-2018-08.
Move to approve.
Motion, motion, and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3E will be no action taken this evening. That'll come back probably at our next meeting. That's having further review between the city and the Durant Industrial Authority. So we'll probably have that to consider. If not, at our next regular council meeting and a special meeting that would be called. Item 3F, consider award of bid and authorization for the mayor to execute quitclaim deed for the real estate parcel on South 22nd Avenue and West Mississippi, Durant, Oklahoma. Marty?
If you'll remember, last month we brought to you a piece of property that some citizens had asked to be sold off, and we declared it as excess. We went out for bid, and that process has been completed. We did get a good bid on this piece of property, so we're asking you tonight to award that and sell the property. The price is $15,176, which is actually a little more than we expected from the estimated comp that we've talked about. And it goes to the Bryan County
Ambulance Authority?
I don't want to mess up the name. Bryan County Ambulance Authority. Yes, sir.
Council have any questions for Mr. Marty? Not entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Marty. Under, we're going to have the reports under information on the fluoride.
That's on the utility.
Okay, but on the street traffic. Okay, so I'll just recognize you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll pick back up on the agenda. Item number 4 under public hearings, the public hearing portion. We have 2 items to consider. Item 4A is to consider approval of ordinance 1842, a rezoning from agricultural Marty or Matt?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Was it cut off?
Agricultural, hang on, to single-family residential for property located across the intersection of Kimberly Road and North 49th Street, providing for an emergency. I just had a question as I was reading that again. Typically that refers to agricultural like A1
Correct.
and
And that-
residential R1.
Yes, yes.
Is-
Was that not stated in the,
Well, on the agenda item, it didn't.
okay, I apologize for that. So
Not a
you see,
problem.
general
Not a problem.
agricultural A1 to, the request is for single-family residential R1. So tonight, Mr. Everett, the applicant, requests a rezoning of that 7.5 acre property, which is just to the east of the intersection of North 49th and Kimberly Road. And in the hopes of facilitating conversation to talk about this actual property on the ground, we have an aerial shot on the screen as well as a couple on the ground site photos. So the site itself is with the star, and these are 2 on the ground photos looking east from the intersection of Kimberly with North 49th. Left is the northern half, right is the southern half. So undeveloped except for one existing home, and which is allowed under A1. But the request is in the hopes of forming a small subdivision, most likely 1/2 acre homes, or 1/2 acre lots. That's what's being discussed. And the applicant provided all required materials, and it went through Planning Commission on December 19th with a vote of 4-0. And I'm here for any questions.
Council members have any questions for Matt regarding ordinance 1842? Under the public hearing portion, there's an opportunity for folks in the audience, anyone that may have an interest in this zoning request change, whether you're in favor of or in opposition to. Is there anyone in the audience that has anything to add to this rezoning request from agricultural to single family? And if so, please identify yourself and where you live, and we'll hear from you.
My name is Zachary Everett. I live at 212 Edgewood Circle, which is the new Wilson Acres Housing Addition. I am the property owner, and I just wanted to have any questions asked if necessary.
Council have any questions?
Okay, have we looked at this property before?
Yes, we were initially asking for an R2. That was vehemently no, so we went R1.
Okay, that's what I thought. I wanted to make sure that, you know, I could go on a little crazy sometimes. No problem.
And again, just for the record, this is a zoning change request only. There's a lot of further work, indeed, if plating and the approval of plating,
Correct.
that would have to occur.
Yeah, this merely sets the stage for the type of use and the density, the intensity of use on the property.
Any other questions for this young gentleman or for Matt?
How many homes are you thinking putting in there?
In a perfect world, there'd be 15 because of 7.5 acres, but I understand that we're not in a perfect world, so I'm estimating somewhere between 10 to 12-ish, maybe 9.
But you're saying how large of lots?
Half acres.
Half acres?
So that it's just because I know the lift station over there is at max capacity at the moment, and I want to be able to give the opportunity to have aerobic or septic systems if necessary. Which half-acre lots, DEQ is the minimum they allow for that.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I apologize. I feel it should be stated that even though this concern was brought up immediately before the Planning Commission meeting on December 19th of last year, there was one citizen concern expressed as in a message to us immediately before that Planning Commission meeting.
Are there any other comments from anyone in the audience? Anyone in the audience? Anyone in the audience? For the record, we'll close the public hearing portion of ordinance number 1842. Council have any further questions or discussion? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 1842, rezoning from agricultural to R1.
Second.
Be a motion and a second, and I'm sorry, do you have emergency on that one? No? Yes, we do, I think. Is that section 1 and section 2? I've got to find it here, guys. Motion is for section 1. Councilmember Groovy. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson,
Aye, motion carries. Entertain a motion for section 2.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 4B, consideration PC 2017-16, a preliminary plat for property located near Washington Avenue and Mockingbird Lane. Mr. Matt?
Yes, sir. So this property was rezoned last year, and tonight in front of you is a consideration for preliminary plat approval. It's a property of approximately 27 acres, phased neighborhood of single-family homes. The plat that was reviewed by Community Development shows all signs of meeting the requirements, and Planning Commission in December recommended the plat for approval with 4-0-0 vote with one member absent. There have been citizen visits, 3 emails, 1 phone call expressing concerns with the request. We're happy to answer any questions, but it does appear to meet the requirements of the Community Development Department and our zoning code.
Council members have any questions for Matthew regarding PC 2017-16? We've had this before, so I think on a couple of occasions, and had to table once, I think, for some delays and I think some paperwork.
I believe the applicant is present tonight as well.
Okay. Hang on here, I'm having technical difficulty myself here. Council members have any questions for Matt? If not, we'll open the public hearing portion of PC 2017-16. And if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak either in favor of or in opposition to this request, you may come forward and identify yourself. And we will try to maintain the 2 to 3 minutes.
Ask Matt a question.
Sure.
before he walks away.
Absolutely.
Hey, Matt, I know all the paperwork and everything has been filed and good stuff on, but is there any way, and not ever who's going to speak, that there could be some changes made or on that?
This being a preliminary plat, it is not the final. It is not set
Right.
in stone. There'll need to be engineered studies done to supplement a final plat request. So yes, this is, they will not be able to necessarily start building, but to do potential groundwork if they see fit. But there'll need to be many more studies done before the final
So
plat.
there could be some changes made to it.
In other words, Matt, this is not final.
Correct.
Right.
Merely preliminary.
Is it possible to put a copy of the plat up on the screen so people can see it?
That's not all of it, though.
It's the one right above that sheet.
Just before.
Okay. Unfortunately, it makes it very difficult to see the sizes of the lots, but I did look at the plot in the planning commission.
I'm sorry,
And
Mr.
it
Bachman.
is-
Mr. Bachman, I'm sorry. For the record, please identify yourself.
Charlie Bachman.
I originally spoke in opposition to the first plat that they recommended. I thought the density was too high, the flows were thing, and it wasn't fair to the people across the street. They have made some meaningful changes. The lot sizes are much larger across the front facing the homes across the street, so it will minimize the negative impact of those homes. So from that standpoint, the objection I had to that is gone. I am still concerned a little bit about traffic.
Mr. Bachman,
Yes.
excuse me, when you said you, are you speaking in behalf of you or people that live there?
I'm speaking on my own behalf at this point in time because I circulated a petition. We had in almost 200 signatures on the petition, and I have changed my mind. Other people may not have changed their minds. They'll have to speak for themselves. But realizing that the need for development and as long as it's done in an organized manner that has the least detrimental impact to the neighbors involved. Again,
do you live there, sir?
Sir?
Do you live out there?
I do not. I have no property close to there. I'm only here as a concerned citizen.
Okay.
I have no financial impact in it one way or the other. I did have a negative financial impact because of something the city did to me years ago, where they allowed 1,000-square-foot homes to be built across from my 4,000-square-foot home, and it cost me about $40,000. And I hate to see that happen to somebody else. So I think from a standpoint of good governance that we need to consider these things. The problem right now is if we could figure out a way to minimize the traffic flow coming out of thing, because you've got everything coming out of Madison Ridge, and Ridgemont all have to go out one way, and they have to go out on Mockingbird and either go west to 49th and that road is godly it's worse than Mockingbird, and Mockingbird is substandard anyway. It's an old county road. So if we could figure out some way to come up with a turn lane from the subdivision down to Washington so that traffic flow would be eased a little bit, I think that would be very helpful. It's not in the plat, it's just a consideration. But since I had objected at the last time, again, speaking for myself, my objections as far as the plat itself are concerned, they have really stepped it up. I'm told that they're going to have a homeowners association that will be able to maintain the fencing and the things that are planned. So it's not going to be a detriment to the city at some point in the future. It seems to be a very well-planned thing as I see it right now. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bachman. Anyone else in the audience?
I am Jerry Combrink. I and my wife Linda live right across the street from the proposed development. I have come and spoken against it each time, and I will continue to for the following reasons. Now, the lots have been increased in size, and that is a step in the right direction, but it's a very small step. You go across the street where I live, the smallest lot that a house is on, I believe from my house on down to 49th Street, is 2.5 acres. I'm on 4. Not everyone wants that, but those of us that do, I think should be protected. I would recommend that the city consider transition zones where you do not have an abrupt change just across the street from the size of the lots and the size of the homes. If the lots are around 140 feet, I'm going to guess, it's just a guess, that there would be at most 1/4 acre per lot. I own 4 acres. That would mean that there could be 16 houses on what I consider a relatively small area. So it's a tremendous change just across the street. A lot of the cities, I'm told, have transition zones instead of just a single family zoning. Uh, you have a minimum of 70-foot lots, but you could have transitions on urban estates where you'd have maybe 2 houses per acre, 1 house per acre, so forth, where there's a smooth transition. What is being proposed is not a smooth transition. It's just cramming a lot of houses in a relatively small space. When you look at it, you can see, I don't know for sure how many lots are there. Does the plot identify that? I'm like Councilman Groby, I can't read that even with my glasses because it's very small. It was originally suggested around 100 houses, then 84. I don't know what it is now, but looking across the road, there are 3 houses in that comparable area of size. So I'm just asking that further consideration be done so that our property rights can be protected as well as the property rights of the people that are wanting to build. I'm not saying there should not be any houses there. I'm just saying that it doesn't fit the neighborhood, and that I think should be done. When I brought this up with the Planning and Zoning Commission, they said they have no authority except to say yes or no, and if it meets the minimum requirements of the city, they have to say yes. But this is where decisions are made, and I'm asking you to make decisions to provide a better transition than what is being presented here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Hey,
Conway.
Jerry, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes, sir.
Where do you live from where those are being built?
On the north side
Just no, south of it?
I'm on the north side. All of this housing addition would be south of me. And on one of the lot, it showed the sizes of the lots across the street. That was up earlier, and I could show you on that one, but I cannot on what's shown there. I'm about midway on the housing addition. I'm just across the road from the pond and a little bit more to the east. The pond is on the, say, the western boundary of my property line on the opposite side of the road. If that helps.
And you said something about half-acre lots?
I'm assuming that it's about a fourth acre lot if there's 140-foot frontage. When we lived in Caddo, we were on a 140-foot lot, 140 by 150. It was approximately a quarter acre, so it's just considerably smaller than a half acre, I believe.
From what phone calls I've had and people I've talked to, they've said half-acre lots, that they could live with half-acre lots. Is that, I mean, have you heard that?
I have heard that. I'm not one of them that's saying it.
So you're thinking more acre lots?
Yes, sir.
And there's 27 acres?
That's what was reported, yes. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? Either in favor of or?
Hi, I'm Brenda Shipman, and I live at 501 Mockingbird Lane. I'm right on the corner. I get to see all the accidents. I get to see all the traffic. My question is, what about sewer and water? I mean, I've lived out there 20 years. We're on a septic system. Is the city going to run sewer and water there, or how's it going to be? I mean, how's it going to work?
I can address that real quick.
Okay.
Water, first of all, is rural water 2. I think it's 2. So that won't be the city's. The sewer is going to come off Washington Street, and right now the plan is to run it across to their property. If you go at this right here, this is Mockingbird,
Mm-hmm.
this is Washington, and we do have sewer over here on Washington.
You do have.
You live over here in the blue,
Yeah, I
the
just-
blue house, right?
yeah,
So
I live on the corner.
it's coming in from this direction.
Okay.
And just barely, to be honest. We had to do some checking to see if we could get sewer. Right now, it looks like we still can, so.
Okay. Is it adequate for
Oh, yeah,
that many?
the size is right. It was all about the elevation.
The
So we had to
elevations?
check it out and see.
Okay. That's my question. Thank you.
Hello, council members. My name is Bill Waddell, and I live directly across the street from the Star with the horseshoe driveway there. I'm directly affected by this proposal. The number one, it undermines the character of the neighborhood. I mean, you wake up one morning, you look across the street, and I got 40 houses, or 80, whatever they plan, 105, and that's not why I moved there. I chose that area because it was an open area, comfortable, and rural. We have rural water, we have septic systems, and I know it's in the city limits, but I agree with Jerry. We have to have some kind of a buffer zone or something to kind of narrow this down where I could be happy with what goes across the street. I'm thinking 2-acre lots myself. The smallest acreage from Washington to 49th, or let's just go to Camelot, is 2.5 acres. About 17 homes from Washington up. And they range from $263,000, they're all custom built homes, no track homes, to $3.7 million, which is right there at Camelot. And I think it just undermines the neighborhood and what we moved there for, and we retired there for. Myself, Jerry, I know, for instance, in DePintos. And I'm sure nobody wants this in front of their house. I don't. And I'm right in the middle of it. And there's other problems that are going to arise in the future because of heavy industry right there. The Lucy concrete plant is heavy industry. And I foresee some problems because one of my research, I started doing some research while I was getting sick. I've never had sinus problems. My wife never had respiratory problems, and started looking at it and found out that we live, south wind prevails across our property right from the batching plant. And when I started looking up on the internet, I found out the city of Luckenbach is involved in the same thing here. Except they had the homes there, and they allowed heavy industry to move in next to it, and they're being sued and everything else because of the respiratory problems they're suffering, the people that live there. So I bring that up, and like I said, I moved there because of the open area, and Mr. Hutchins from the Planning Commission meeting, he said, well, she needed money to move. Well, okay. Then he brought up that it's better than looking at rocks. I disagree, because if that's the case, then how come he didn't develop it before? So they wouldn't have to look at rocks. Well, I think we all know the answer to that. But I don't know, but if anybody considered the school, I mean, that goes into I believe that's Silo.
Yes, that's Silo School District.
So I think there's other ramifications, other things going on here that may not be being seen or pictured correctly, especially the batching plant. I'm one that has called the police at 2 o'clock in the morning and said they're making too much noise. And I'm probably, about 500 yards away maybe. This place is going to be less than 100 yards away because they got a notice. So that tells me they're within 300 feet. I'm talking about the Lucy brothers. I talked to one executive at a batching plant for a concrete company, and they said, you got to be kidding me. They're not going to do this, are they? I said, that's what they proposed. He says, there's all kinds of problems with cohabitation of the heavy industry with residential property, residents, people who live in close by. So to me, that sounds like an environmental problem and a health problem. And being a citizen of the city of Durant, I can only see if there's any legal problems down the road that we're the ones that are gonna pay for. Because I don't really know how these people can live in those homes. And I'm that far away and I'm calling the police at 2 o'clock in the morning saying they're making too much noise. So, and I was just told they have a job to complete and they'll just pay the fine. So, okay. But it's just some of the things that I know. And like I said, I didn't move here to wake up one morning. It may be a year or two. They'll have the 105 houses right across the street. That's not why I bought there. Everybody is on 2.5 acre lots or bigger. I mean, at the end there, just across from Camelot, the guy owns about 100 and some acres. And most of my neighbors have even more acreage than I do. And it's just, I think I'm not even going to address the traffic problem because everybody knows the traffic problem on Mockingbird as it is now. It's terrible. I don't know. I've replaced 5 mailboxes, and one of them I found at 83 feet from where I had it in my yard. And I found the mirrors and everything else in the vehicle is so narrow and they drive so fast that it's that's what happens. But that's just a problem that goes along with growing. I don't mind growing as long as it's reasonable, and I can accept 1 acre lots. I prefer 2. But even with 1 acre lots, 5 acre lots, I don't know what's going to happen because of that batching plant and the environmental problems that come off there and the health issues. I mean, it doesn't take much to look on the internet and see that. But like I said, I don't know what these houses, I don't know what the cost of these houses are. But also, the diminishing value of our homes. Because to try to sell our homes and people look across the street and say, well, because later on down the low road, foreclosures, renters, on and on. So I just, it's like an instant community or an instant neighborhood right across the street. And I just don't think that, that's what we need in Durant. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's probably the largest proposed development in Durant that I know of. And it's just, it's a sore eye. I mean, it would be for me. And I don't know what, everybody owns 2 cars now, so that's 200 cars possibly. The one that lights up in our house every time they exit, because I live right across the street, Jerry does. So it's just a big change. And I'm open to change, but as long as it's responsible and reasonable. And I just think that's just too many people. We don't have that kind of population that we're so dense that we have to cram them in to a bunch of tract homes. And that's the way I feel about it. And I'll be glad to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Waddell.
Okay.
My name is Martin Tucker. I live at 308 West Mockingbird, and I bought the property from the DePintos. And I won't take much of your time, but I want to say that Mr. Combrick, Jerry, I want to echo his sentiment, and I want to agree with his comments about transition areas that are necessary in urban planning. My wife Patty and I bought this home just a few months ago. We haven't lived there very long, and I told this to the Planning and Zoning Committee. I don't think we would have bought the home had we known that there were going to be this many homes built directly across the road from us, and the access road from this new subdivision will come out almost directly in our driveway. So that also is an impact on us. And I thank you very much for hearing our comments.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else in the audience?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Eric Schmitz, and I'm here with the Hutchins family, Miss Mullins' relatives as well. Just like to say, Miss Mullins and her husband bought that property in the 70s, and when they did, there weren't any 2.5 acre developments or 5 acre tracts around it. And she realized the city's growing, and those folks came and they didn't object. They realized that things change. In fact, they'd sold a dairy that was in Louisville, which is now huge compared to when they were there. But point being, I have experience in real estate and development, and I've offered to help Miss Mullins' estate, her family. It's not a function of selling so she can move at all. She's paid taxes on the property and been a good citizen for many, many years, as have the Hutchins. In planning developments, which I've done primarily in Texas, if you'll notice, you have the industrial property that's contiguous to the south, and then you have commercial on the other side, contiguous along Washington. In fact, this is a perfect type of transition. The type of homes that we're talking about and proposing are in the $250,000 to $300,000 area for the market, which discussions with local realtors have indicated Durant is in short supply of and can desperately use more of those. In addition, there'll be an HOA for maintain streets, seasonal colors at the entrances, fencing, as well as landscaping along both roads and all the interior roads. The proposed covenants and deed restrictions will require homeowners to each plant at least 2 hardwood species of irrigated lawns. And as you can see, there are no trees virtually on the property now. That would allow for additional green belt, oxygenation, and in fact, hopefully a filter, if you will, for the gentleman that was concerned about the effects of the batch plant. We're not quite as litigious, and we understand you got to have those things to grow the city. And what we're proposing is about 70% of our original request for the density. It is allowed, and as one of the members of the P&Z board said, we virtually have met every demand of the neighbors in the area around it. And in fact, this very last minute, over by the detention pond, have increased the lot size as a transition from the folks that are truly most affected to the west, I believe it is. And so those are larger, and there is a detention pond, which we had planned on possibly having a fountain in for aesthetics that would complement the new landscaping. We feel like it will help increase a dramatic tax revenue and a benefit to the city in the long run. It is phased. They're not all coming at one time. And so that also, I think, is a giant plus from an economic perspective for the city. We respectfully request that the council approve, which was unanimously approved by P&Z, and we're looking forward to doing a first-class development that I think the folks will ultimately be happy and proud of. And it would enhance the view, contrary to some of the things that have been said. Some of the folks across the road, in fact, got here maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I think the batch plan as well as the commercial property were already in place, which is their current view. So I don't see how it could do anything except enhance that view, in my opinion. So if y'all have any questions, we'll be happy to answer those.
Council members have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Mr. Schmidt, thank you for explaining to us. I'd like to ask, what size homes would these be?
The minimum that we're proposing would be 1,700 under air condition and up to about 2,500. They could certainly be larger, but 3 to 4 bedroom homes, 2-car garages, 2 baths plus, pretty nice looking houses, 80% masonry. Pretty strict requirements. Again, they'll have seasonal colors rotated at the entrance, and a nice fence that runs the length of Mockingbird, as well as hardwood trees planted and irrigated there to kind of enhance the view and beautify the city.
What's your plan for the fence going down Mockingbird? What material? How high?
We're looking at split rail or 3 rail, kind of a PVC or a painted fence. It's obviously less maintenance on a PVC product, but more of a country feel that would blend in with the environment and the natural colors and surrounding. We have a landscape architect that we retained for it. And again, we've gone through 3 or 4. I think one of the councilmen said there'd been some paperwork delays. Spent a lot of time and money trying to make something that fits everything. And certainly, as Abe Lincoln said, you can please some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. And we've gone out of our way and spent quite a bit of time and money to get the very best proposal in front of the council tonight.
I have just a couple more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, I hate punching this button. These 1,700 square feet homes, would these be the ones across the front on the 150-foot lots, I understand? Or would these be the ones, my understanding is there will be 150-foot lots facing Mockingbird, but behind there will be 70-foot or 60-foot lots.
The smaller ones are 70s, but actually none of them face Mockingbird. And there would be a fence and, if you will, a buffer between Mockingbird and the neighborhood. And so the larger lots are on the radius of the cul-de-sacs and on the turns, and then on the ones that we redesigned by the detention pond to afford some larger homes and larger lots. But the absolute minimums would be in that 1,800 foot range, and they could go on up from there to, say, 2,500 feet. And someone may actually build one larger.
If you put a house that size on that smaller lot, how close are those together?
You're probably going to have 30 to 40 feet easily on either side. I think, Marty, you may know the setback requirements, but we have plenty of extra room for that. In addition, these are pretty deep lots, so it allows for a nice backyard that could be fenced. And in this category,
even the smallest rectangular lots are 70 wide minimum. That's the requirement. And then they're about 140, 150 deep, depending on where they're located.
Right.
He's going to be required a 5-foot setback on each side. That's just standard setback requirement for your side. So you got 10 foot in between houses. Now, generally on the R1 lots like this, for perspective, they'll look more like Remington, where the houses do get a little farther apart because you're not using the full 70 foot of frontage. In some place where you have a 60-foot frontage, which is what we've done in what he actually was going to do and he got denied, you end up with the houses real close together and just that 10-foot barrier. But I would expect you would get 15 or 20 foot between houses in a true R1 zone.
On those small lots on 25?
Yeah, they're still 70 wide. That's as wide as any lot we force you to own in the city of Durant. Because we go down to 50 foot in some zones. So 70 is our biggest, our widest lot.
Yeah, and we revised upward twice so that we can get a wider lot and still make economic sense of the development.
Now, explain to me one more time, your larger lots or on.
You see the illustration and the cul-de-sacs, those homes would front the cul-de-sac proper and the backs of the homes would be up against Mockingbird.
You see the rectangular lots, they're 8,400 square feet. Mm-hmm. Those cul-de-sac lots are 17,000 square feet. They're almost twice as big as a normal lot.
And so those are the ones that will be facing over to the
Mockingbird is running right along the north boundary of that.
Yes, sir. And we did that to try to appease the folks that live directly across the street and give them obviously a much bigger lot or green space between them and the smaller lots. So we consciously made the effort to make it a really nice transition.
One more question. Is there any way that your group and the other group can somehow get together so everybody can halfway be happy?
Well, we've done that on 4 different occasions now, and this has been about a year-long process. And we finally got a unanimous consent with the majority of the neighbors as well as P&Z at the last meeting that we had here.
And what did you say the price of these homes? They would,
We're anticipating 250 to 300, 325.
what does it cost to build a house?
Well, that depends on who's building them, I guess.
Any other questions for Mr. Smith?
And when you put those and you face them like that, then there's no way you can have a road getting on. Let's see, you were going to come out on what? Kimberly? On which road are you going to have to?
We front Mockingbird, yes, sir. And the first phase is just one penetration. That was one of the first revisions. We had initially 4 actual streets, if you would have pulled the cul-de-sacs on through, and that reduced the light count substantially. But again, we were taking into consideration the neighbors on the other side so that we would have a larger open area and buffer zone. As well, all along the entire run of Mockingbird, you're going to have red oaks and live oaks and hardwood trees that'll be planted and irrigated. So it should, with the new fence, be really pretty.
2 exits out, right?
Yes, ma'am. There's 2 total when it's fully developed, but the first phase just has 1. But it does allow for emergency exit with the existing drive that's there with Miss Mullins' property. And again, we've got industrial on the other side and then commercial to the opposite side. So residential development in a more dense fashion is appropriate in my opinion, and historically in every other development that I've been involved in.
I can agree with the gentleman about the sand plant, though. It is going to be a problem. I've had an experience with that.
Yeah. Well, it's there, and it has really no bearing on us. Again, the trees that we're proposing that we require the residents to have should help knock down both noise and any potential pollution because you have an open pasture now, and that is their view of the folks on Mockingbird is a sand and concrete batch plant. Now they're going to see trees and new homes.
Well, I think it may be at least a point to make that the cement plant has permitting certificates that they have to either meet
Yes, sir.
or abide by. I think if from the city side, if we have any issues with their emissions, that we'd have to. I don't know, Tom, you might elaborate more on that, but that's an issue for to take to the DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, if indeed they're in violation.
Yes, sir. And I believe that plant's a DeLisi plant, which is a very big, well-respected company, and they require scrubbers. And so I don't think my guess is there's not any non-compliance issues with that plant. It should be first class.
Any other questions or discussion from Mr. Smits? Or is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak?
And again, we don't have anything to do with the batch plant. That's our neighbor. We're trying to live with.
Understand. And I think we have one other, maybe an individual.
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Smith.
you.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I had another question.
Okay.
May I? Yes. Thank you. Brenda Shipman again. Is there any future development for the roads in that area? For the city to do road work and things, widen, make it safer?
I think it, and Brenda, thank you for that question. And I think Marty would be happy to elaborate on that. I think it's incumbent upon us as a city to consider.
Are they going to do curbing out there for against the city,
Are you on a,
or is that in the requirements?
So the road does belong to the city. It is not on their property, right? So it would be a city function. Money is not currently appropriated for a new road in that area, but as development happens across the town, we do have to try to maintain a workable roadway. I'm sure that will be on a short list to get some shoulders and turn lanes and those things, especially where this new development is.
I mean, because it's a very narrow road.
Sure.
I mean, we just got a 2-lane bridge last year, a couple of years ago. You know,
The
We're excited.
county built it.
Yes.
And we annexed it, and to be honest, haven't done much more than patch it since then. So
I know.
we will have to do some work on it, I'm sure.
But I mean,
But it won't
that's very
happen before the
concerned.
subdivision for sure.
Right.
So
Marty, while you're out there, you guys talked about, you said turn lane. And are they going to build this far enough off the road that if we need to widen Mockingbird, and
there
we
is
need-
right of way there for it already. Yeah.
is there enough room?
Yes.
Because I mean,
And Washington.
just making sure that
Well,
we,
and
we're
to be
talking
honest-
about making a turn lane that we plan for that if we can
Sure.
do it in the future.
Sure.
I don't want to get there and they're like, oh well, we let them build 5 feet too close to the road, you know.
Or on the road.
Or on the road, whatever.
I'm Mark Swearingen, and I live at the end of Washington Place Road with Donna Clarkson. That is the first road to the north of Mockingbird. And I share a lot of the concerns of some of the people who've already gotten up and talked. But I think my biggest concern is just the number of homes that are being proposed for that particular area. I do want to say I like the changes that they've made at the front of the property on Mockingbird, and I wish the rest of it looked more like that. I still think the lot size for that area is too small, and it's hard for me to imagine someone buying a $300,000 or more home and wanting to have someone that close to them. I know in Donna's case, she has 5 acres. I believe the Tuckers, you have 10. Am I remembering right? And I would like to see also 1 acre lots for these homes. But it was mentioned that there were attempts to work with the neighbors. I was kind of led to believe that at the last planning meeting, we were going to have an opportunity to discuss some of these things. And when I showed up at the meeting, the plat had already been written out and then submitted. So we really didn't have an opportunity to sit down and discuss some of our concerns. It had already been laid out and was submitted to the planning committee, and they approved it. But I do think you need to look at the area and the homes across the street and the fact that the homes that are there are on so much larger lots. I would also suggest you can look at similar areas like the development that's being done out on Bryan Drive. And that to me would be much more consistent with what's already on the north side of the road at Mockingbird. And I thank you all for the opportunity to visit with you, and happy to answer any questions if you have any for me.
any questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
John Kilpatrick. I don't live across the street, but I do live down the street. And I've lived there for 11 years now. I moved there to get out of downtown Durant, basically, because of the neighborhoods and whatever. My biggest concern is probably the traffic in there. And the time I've lived there, traffic's got probably at least 4 times worse than what it was when I moved there. There's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit there. I'm probably the only one that runs 35, and I don't do it all the time. But but anyway, so that is my biggest concern. I don't like the idea of having so many houses there in one spot. I expressed this before when you were considering the change in zoning and whatever, but I would rather see a bigger lots, fewer houses, to more match my mindset's on 2.5 acres, just like everybody else. I have one of the minimum size lots out there. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, well, okay.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Mr. Schmitz, I think Councilman Dills may have a question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
From just what was said there, it, and I know you've been at this for how long now? A year?
Yes,
Trying
sir.
to get this done? But is there any way that you could get with some of these people, just like what was said, that he didn't have a say so, it was already done when he got there, right? Is there a time or a place we could sit and do something far as that, getting more input?
Well, respectfully, sir, we've tried to meet and we've actually redrawn 3 different times now and increased the size 3 different times. And the problem is with the type of road, concrete roads that don't require the maintenance and the curbs and the utilities and helping expand the sewer system, it reaches a point of economics.
Okay.
And whether it is or isn't, but what's important to know is so far as Mockingbird, because it is phased, you'll be allowed the opportunity to receive the income from those new homes, and it'll be in a smaller number. There's roughly a third of the number of total homes at full development. And that money could be used to make those improvements that we're talking about for Mockingbird, theoretically. Or you could put them wherever you need the money worse. But it won't happen all at once.
We don't get any property taxes in the city.
Yeah.
Property taxes, we don't get it.
You don't get any of that.
The only thing that I'm getting feedback on is people don't mind that coming into development. It's the size of the lots. And that's the biggest kick that I'm getting from people calling me.
Right. And I'm getting that initially a whole lot more. There's just a few folks that are still don't want to see any development, quite frankly. And so I think you're going to always have that. And I don't know where you stop
Right.
to where you finally just walk away.
Right. But there's no way you can adjust your lot sizes.
We feel like we've gone as far as
Far
we
as you
can
can
to make
go.
it economic. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Mr. Smith? Is there anyone else in the public hearing portion that wishes to speak? And if we could, we've been pretty generous with our time allotment, so please limit your time.
I'll be very brief. Jerry Combrick again, live right across the road. I've never been contacted by the developer to meet. I've come to every meeting. So he says I've tried to work with them. I'm not aware of it. Thank you.
Zachary Everett. I was at the last hearing. Honestly, don't have a dog in the race, and frankly, he'd be kind of my competition. Honestly, with me trying to get a plat approved as well, but I do feel like it's worth merit to saying. I was driving through here today, past the city pool, going towards First Street on that major thoroughfare, and you're driving past Prestonwood and Quail Ridge. All those lots up to Prestonwood are right around the 2-acre lot. And then you got that big, nice housing addition right there. I feel like that's gives jurisdiction, I guess you could say. It's not the same area, but it is kind of the same transition from large lots to a huge neighborhood that's $300,000+ houses. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience under the public hearing portion? Anyone else?
Wanted to stress, I wasn't sure if Mr. Combrick was aware, but I believe his wife has had correspondence with Mrs. Hutchins in one form or another, and we have in fact had open meetings to discuss that. Last thing to consider, if you wanted a nice 2 to 5 acre estate type house, those guys have to get even closer to a batch plant, and that is a big challenge. The fact of it is probably not many takers for that product. So that's why we planned it as we have. Thank you.
I am Linda Combrink, and I live at 100 West Mockingbird, right across from there. And I did because my parents, I wrote to Joanne because my parents too were in the nursing home, and I understood the feeling of taking care of them. And I know we had to sell, my mom and dad both, when Hardee's was out here and the new post office came in, he was in a car accident and broke his neck. And he was in the nursing home. And he had 200 or more acres out east of Caddo and a nice home. We had to wind up selling all of it to take care of them both. My mom was in a coma from an accident at the nursing home. And but why I came up is I do not remember being asked, and I would have, for any open meetings with them. So I wanted to correct that. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Comrie.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask that we keep things relevant to the issue at hand.
My name is Bill Waddell again. I'm at 200 West Mockingbird, directly across from this, and I haven't been contacted at all about come to some kind of a resolution or an agreement. It's
Marty, excuse me, Mr. Waddell, did we, in the mailing process, the property owners that were within the requirements did receive
Absolutely. Yeah.
notifications?
Everybody that lives within 300 feet of this property got notification via the post office through a letter.
Okay.
Yes, I got that notification, but I haven't been notified by these people to work with them on this. Only place I've seen them is at the Planning Commission, and they have narrow guidelines of what they can approve and things like that. And as far as I know, none of these people are going to live there once they're built, or they don't even live in Durant.
Anyone else in the audience under the public hearing portion? Anyone else? Final call? Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of consideration of the preliminary plat, PC 2017-16, for property located near Washington Avenue and Mockingbird Lane. Council members have any further questions or comments to Marty or for Marty? Or Marty, do you have any further comments to council?
I will remind you, this is a piece of property zoned R1 already. You're looking at a preliminary plat today, and that's what it's about. The zoning has already happened. We don't have a urban residential zone in our code right now, something we could look for in the future and actually have some interest in. But this was zoned already into R1. The plat, as presented to community development, does meet the requirements of an R1 plat. And that's where we look for when we present it to you. So I'll leave it there unless you have a question for me.
Council members? And Marty, you might just remain there. I don't know that we'll have further questions, but I'll probably ramble here a little bit. First, I want to just take a minute and thank everyone that has participated in this public hearing portion this evening. That's what the planning and zoning is all about, and that's what the council public hearing portion is all about, is for the participation, whether by design or not. This is the participating process, our democratic process that the municipal government follows, and we're certainly no exception to that. I respect each and every one that spoke this evening, and as does this council, every member up here, either in favor of or in opposition to. Mr. and Ms. Combrick, and Mr. Waddell, Martin, Mark, the Smiths, Mr. Kilpatrick, Bonnie. Thank you for your questions and your concerns and the issues that you bring up. I can sit here with all full honesty, at least for this council member, and I think I can. This is an opportunity I might be able to speak for all of them. This is one of the biggest struggles that a council member goes through in their service to their community in considerations like this. It's a struggle to please everyone, and as was mentioned, one of the hardest struggles is when you can't please everyone, and I think that's kind of where some of us are this evening. I hear the pleas of the concerns. I hear the concerns of the property owner and the rights of the property owner. And I have to think of what the law says, what the municipal governing laws say, and the direction that they give to us. That's not to say, can those guidelines be improved? We're thinking from conversations, actually from you folks, that they can be. And Mr. Norstedt and Marty, the city manager, will be addressing that. Maybe addressing it as we speak. For example, the transition zone that was mentioned. And I don't think anybody has any objection to that possibility, but I have to deal with what's in place now. I remind myself to follow the rules, follow the law. And in saying that, I don't know, Mr. City Attorney, do you have anything to add for us to this evening in our consideration?
Mr. Mayor, maybe only to echo to some degree what Marty has said already, in that it appears as if the applicant has met all of the now existing requirements that the city has. Maybe that at some point in the future, the city wishes to modify those codes so that there are, transition areas or larger lot requirements in certain areas. But at this time, that's not what exists. And so you've got a landowner who has complied with all of the now existing requirements that this city has. And so I think from a legal standpoint, I think it's incumbent upon the council to approve that. And the landowner, by all accounts, has made several modifications at both planning and zoning and this council's request. And there's nothing about this request that appears to not be in compliance with our existing standards. Now, from a non-legal standpoint, I understand the viewpoint of the neighbors across the street, but at some point they are asking this council to tell a landowner what to do with their land, even though that landowner's request complies with our existing codes. So I think it's incumbent upon this council, if this applicant has met all the existing requirements, to approve at least the preliminary plat.
Marty,
Charles, I left you out in Mr. Bachman, and recognize those that participated, because I really appreciate your input and the idea of the potential widening of Mockingbird and a turn lane possibility. So I appreciate that input also.
Mr. Mayor, could I just say one thing? Based on what I've heard tonight, we evidently don't have any rules about who can build what where, so maybe everybody that owns homes should be worried about what's going to be put next door to them.
Sure, and that's why we go through the zoning process. When this was brought through to be rezoned from agricultural to residential, we gave them a new set of guidelines and said, we're approving residential 1. Now you can have 8,400 square foot lots, 70-foot frontage. That's what the requirements, the minimum requirements are for R1. Had we denied the zoning and left it agricultural, which is, by the way, our only other option at the large lot size, they got to stay 5 acres or bigger. So that's really doesn't meet the market either. I'm not saying we don't need a 1 or 2 acre type subdivision code. We just don't have one currently. We gave them the R1 code, the zone, whenever they asked for it. And all I'm saying is that they've met the requirements of the code the way we have it written. So
I guess the sad thing is that a lot of the people don't know the code.
yeah, you know, and it's, to be honest, even worse in the county because there's not even a zoning change that you got to ask permission for. So anybody with a 10-acre lot and a big house could have a mobile home park move in next door. You couldn't really control it. At least in the city, we have some public hearings and the ability to listen to those.
Any other comments from council? A couple questions from Marty? Anyone? If not, I think we're out of time to consider a motion for PC 2017-16, a preliminary lot or plat, again for property located near Washington Avenue and Mockingbird Lane. Can we hear a motion? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? As the mayor, I will second the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby,
Thanks a lot, Destry. I really don't know what to say. I can see both sides. This is awful. I'll have to vote no.
Councilmember Dills,
No.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson,
Aye. We have a failed motion. So, I need just a brief recess.
Hey, Jerry.
Okay, am I on? Well, got us, got us going? Okay, we'll come to order. Actually, we'll pick up on item number 5, information items. And just for the audience, on a monthly basis, all of our department heads provide reports, not only to the city manager, but for the council's review. And I think I'm going to turn this over to the city manager at this time, because I think we have 1 or 2 reports that he would like to be sure that we get this evening. So, City Manager?
Uh, Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, I think we had a request for a report on our striping program, and I'm going to have our street superintendent, Mr. James Young, and Public Works Director Marty Cook come forward and discuss that.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council. What we generally do in our budget, we have a $5,000 line item for pavement marking. That generally covers crosswalks for the schools. We repaint every year around before school starts, a couple of months. We can do some parking lots, which we own the Market Square. We restripe that on occasion when it needs it. Also have Law Street parking lot. And we have some other crosswalks around town. And that's generally what that is used for. This year, we've already used all of it up, but about $1,300. We do have one PO out for the brick part of 3rd Street here. I had a request from a business owner that the parking stripes were not visible. So we did do a PO for that. The contractor's just been waiting. The bank's been doing the remodel and the weather. So we're kind of waiting on that. So we have basically $1,300 to the rest of the year. So that's going to cover small areas. We might get to do a few things downtown. We haven't done any crosswalks downtown. Speaking with Stephanie down at Main Street, she wants to do some kind of design, so we haven't redone those. We didn't want to redo them, turn around, grind them right back up, and just waste money. So any of the other striping that we do, we generally do pass those out. Okay, we generally do that out of capital improvement, and 14, 15, we did University. We restriped it, thermoplastic. The reason why we use thermoplastic in those areas where there's a lot of turn lanes, turning, twisting, intersections at the red lights is because it's more durable. It'll last longer. Otherwise, we'd be repainting every year, and it's also reflectivity. Some of the areas that I have proposed on there today are, a couple of them are paints. They're out in some rural areas that are going to be not turning and twisting on, just double yellow and single white line. But we'll generally do quotes, or not quotes, I'm sorry, do bids on those. They'll come in with the big trucks and just stripe a mile or whatever we happen to do. So, any questions?
James, help me understand too, and maybe some of the other council members too. When I look at Mulberry and North First, okay, you know, a couple of years ago, or maybe 3 years ago now, we, with the bypass being completed and the Department of Transportation taking some and giving us some, and I
Yes,
think
sir.
it'd be good to know what we're responsible
Okay.
for.
Actually, none of North First is ours, from Maine all the way to the, but we do have some intersection with red lights. I talked with ODOT. If we do our side, do Mulberry, like Mulberry and First. We do Mulberry, then we have the turn lanes there. We don't have any turn lanes at the lights. They're actually gone right now. Talking with them, I don't think it's a way we can work with them and they'd come in and do the same thing we would do at the same time, you know, scheduling and everything. But they're okay with us doing just the intersection and not doing the rest of First Street. Then they would be responsible for the rest of First Street. But it'd probably be a safety deal for us for the red lights, for the turn lanes and everything, because you can't even see them now. And I did get them before we got the bypass completed, or right at the time we did. I did get them to go out West Main and restripe, but they didn't do any turn lanes, no arrows. And I've had a request now that, you know, you can't tell where the arrow's at or anything, so that's why that one's on there. We'll probably just restripe the whole thing, thermoplastic. They just came in, did a real quick paint job. It kind of helped us out, saved us about $30,000 there for a year, but it's in need of it now. But we do have all the main from the bypass, which is out by Lakeway, all the way to First Street. That is ours now. And as far as First Street, we don't have any of it, but we will do probably those intersections because we do maintain the lights. So that those lights and turn lanes and cameras and everything will work right, we'll probably do those. And they'll be responsible for the everything else, the turn lane in the center going all the way down.
Mm.
How much money did it actually cost us to do, fill up this page because we could try?
The last time we did it, it was about 50,000 is what it was on University. We did all of University, did Radio Road. I actually have a list of that, is what we did last time. Matter of fact, I'll take that back. We did budget 50,000. I think we came in under 38 after bidding and everything. But this is kind of a list of, if you want to show that, sir. You got one? Okay. We did, we cut all capital improvements last year or coming up to this year, I guess. But I think talking with the city manager, we're going to try to have some capital improvement this year. So I'm hoping we can get that whole list. Once I get everything measured, we don't have it all measured up. Jordan and I spent last month doing some of that and measuring and looking at things. And once we get that done, we'll have a more idea of how much money.
Out 49, at University, getting to 49 is pretty bad. My son was run off the road at night because there's no lines there. And then a lady that is a counselor, she went over the center line going home, and the police, she met a police officer.
Yeah, and I'll be glad to add to that list if you guys get some calls and just forward them to the city manager, and we'll add to it. And yeah.
Once we paint a road, how long does it last?
It's going to determine on a few factors. You see the gravel we put down, the chips and the ice melt and everything. If it's one of those areas, it can last one year, and it'll actually grind it off and wear it off. I mean, you can go down and actually look at it where cars are turning, twisting on it. The one 14-15, I looked at some of it today, and it looked like it was still doing good what we did in there. So we got 3 years out of that. I have got some 7-8 years. It just depends on the traffic and the wear and tear on it and what kind of weather we have. So to answer your question, I don't have it's not an exact science.
Come on, man.
We did last week. They did Stripe Country Club, our new road. It's done. It was part of the grant, so the grant paid for it, so it didn't come out of our fund.
I don't think we ever go down.
No. Some new businesses they're really building out there. So they had talked to me about that and some signage because of the truck traffic. Any questions?
Speaking of the truck traffic, and this is probably off track, but like on the Country Club Road, $1 million road there, are these trucks, all these big trucks that are going in and out, are they going to have to pay any kind of impact fee, or can the city do that? Can we impose an impact fee?
I don't think currently. I mean, we don't have an impact fee.
I heard
I mean, that would essentially be a toll road, and we can't do that if the taxpayers have paid for a highway. We can't charge someone based on the length or weight or size or color of their vehicle to drive on that road.
Typically, those impact fees that most cities assess are like the preliminary plat that was brought tonight. When they approve those, there's an impact fee either done per lot. That's done. That's typically what a lot of cities do.
My understanding, like Frisco, a new business comes to town, like a Lowe's or something, then they would have an impact fee on them.
And there's some that do it for residential development as well to help pay for the sewer, the streets, those type of things that are going to be impacted because of the development.
Any more questions?
It does. Tom, you may remember, but it seems like a few years ago, one of the trucking companies agreed to some compensation, I think, for tearing up 49th Street, maybe.
I think I remember something like that, and it may have even been out in the county.
It was
that there was an issue where maybe an oil well had been drilled and there was some excess traffic or some heavy traffic, and the company had agreed to pay for some repairs. But from an ordinance standpoint or something like that, it wouldn't be permissible to charge based on the traffic. We build the road based on the anticipated traffic, and then hopefully it holds up.
I guess you could have the restrictions, though, the tonnage, et cetera, and through fines, or you could control
Yeah, my
that
understanding
sort of
on if there's a business like we have a rock crusher or something down there, we can't put no through trucks because that infringes on their business, you know. So that's my understanding. I know, I think a little town up north here tried that, and they didn't want them coming across there, and they got into a big ordeal. They put a smaller limit on the bridge. It would actually hold them, but they put a smaller limit to keep them from doing that. And got in a little trouble.
good idea. It just didn't work.
Anything else?
Anything else for James and Marty? Or do you have more? Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Council members have any questions or requests on the information items of the monthly reports? Robbie's not here this evening. I see Miss Reba. Things going well at the library?
We are very busy at the library right now. We're doing free tax service for people on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have veteran services there Monday through Friday. We did a ton of new library cards today. We are very
Great job. Our public library is a gem in our city. Thank you, Robbie, or Reba. Tell Robbie thanks, too. Any departments that would like to report? Albert, you always like to report. No, okay. You don't have to. Chief Doyens, what's going on with our fire department, sir?
Well, we've been doing some Department of Labor, some things to ensure that we meet Department of Labor standards, some fit test for respiratory gear, making sure all the firefighters pass. So I guess some hazmat training coming this next week. So all things we're looking to improve our department.
Good. Thank you, Chief. And thank you and your men and women and Chief Hauser, Deputy Chief, you guys, thank you. Durant can be proud of its fire department and its police department and the public safety that you guys provide. Anybody else? Jerry, you still fixing them vehicles? All right. That brings it, reminds, where are we on that addition over there? Are we? On the shop, yeah? Okay, very good. Okay, very good. Good to hear.
Thank the guy that's been working on it, got the flu.
Yeah, who hasn't? Good, that's good to hear. Good to hear. Thank you, Jerry. Anyone else? If not, we'll move to item number 6 on the agenda. Citizen comments on non-agenda items. Citizens wishing to address the council regarding matters which are not listed on the agenda are required to sign up no later than 5 minutes prior to the scheduled starting time. The sign-in sheet will contain space for the name, address, phone number, and topic to be discussed. In this way, the city staff would be able to follow up on any issues presented if necessary. Tonight, we have a couple. One is Mr. Clinton Bates here in Durant on East Main. Wants to talk about roads and bridges.
My name is Clinton Bates. I live at 802 East Main, Durant, Oklahoma. Right on the east and westbound lanes in front of my house, just directly to the south on the East Main, there's a pothole on each side. Underneath that pothole is an 8-inch gas line cut straight across southwest from the corner of my driveway. And there's a pothole on each side of the road. I'm afraid it's going to bust the gas line. And
have you notified anybody, or have you notified?
No.
Okay.
It's been getting worse and worse. When the truck runs over it, I can feel it bounce the ground underneath my house.
Well,
So,
we're on notice this evening then.
okay.
802 East Main.
Yes.
James is making a note. City manager's made a note. We'll get that checked out, Mr.
My
Bates.
other concerns is the Bow Bridge down there.
Yeah.
It has a walkway on
Yeah.
the north side of it. On the north end, or northwest end of that bridge, there's a pothole as big around as this. And I took a picture of it. I stuck my stick down in it, and it's that deep. If somebody walks off that, they're going to break their neck. And we have a lot of foot traffic down East Main.
Okay.
So I'm kind of concerned about that. And I have a question about when CMC plant started out there, there was a write-up in the paper that they were going to redo East Main. Have any of y'all heard anything in the way of the planning or anything of that?
Let's see. I think I may defer that to the city manager. I think that is in the works, and that Mineral Bayou Bridge will be.
Yes, we've been in contact with ODOT, and that is going to be one of their projects. So,
Do you have any idea when they might get to it?
I talked to the ODOT director about maybe 6-8 weeks ago. I'm going to be making another follow-up call and ensuring that that's going to be taken care of.
Those trucks have tore our road. I mean, it's got potholes in it. Well, some of them's 3 or 4 inches deep. And every time it rains there on East Main, right on the west side of the bridge, there's water cuts across through there. I took a picture of it on my phone. It washes the road out, and y'all have to come dump a load of rocks in the hole over there every time it washes it out. One of these days it's going to wash out, and the car's going to run off in there, and it's going to be bad.
James, you got a note of that too, right? On the Bayou
They
Bridge.
probably know where it's at. They don't. Over there about every time it floods, they have to go over there and redo it. So,
okay. All right.
I just having concerns about East Main. I don't want nobody to get hurt over there.
We hope to make that and get that a lot better, sir. And,
Well, I appreciate it, and thank y'all very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And Dr. Danny, are you still here? But Dr. Danny, I think we're going to do that under our utilities.
When I started talking, I was going to ask if we're in the right spot.
We'll put you under utilities authority, which will be too just very shortly, sir. Thank you for your patience. Anything under new business? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn out of regular city council session. The clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, we are adjourned out of regular city council, but the records show it is, oh, okay. But the records show it is now 8:14. I'll call to order the regular Durant City Utilities Authority meeting of February the 13th, 2018. Ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Trustee Hawthorne is absent. Trustee Groby.
Here.
Trustee Dills.
Here.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock.
Here.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Here, for the record, we do have a quorum, one member absent. First order of business, consent items, 1A. Any to be removed? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve consent items.
Move to approve.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Groby.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 2 requires no action. Item number 3, under administration. Discussion of fluoride system improvements for the water treatment plant and consider instructing staff to move forward with procedures to purchase necessary equipment and chemicals as required. We have Marty Cook, Public Works Director. And if it's not out of order, this is where I think we'll recognize Dr. Danny Craig here in just a minute after Marty makes his presentation here.
Mr. Tomlinson, actually, in lieu of my presentation, we have met with a group of visiting dentists back here, and they've elected a spokesman. We've also got Mrs. Dr. Jana Winfrey from the Dental Health Service, Oklahoma State Department of Health, excuse me. And then, of course, our water plant supervisor and engineer here as well. So we're going to let them come up and speak first and give them the house for a minute. Quickly try to encourage timeliness and get everything we need out. Jana, you want to go first? Dr. Jana Winfrey. Correct.
Good evening.
Good evening, Doctor.
So I'm Jana Winfrey. I'm with the State Health Department, but I'm here at the invitation of local dentists and also at the request of Julie Montgomery, who is the director of the Bryan County Health Department, who asked me to come as well. And I wanted to say that Durant has faithfully fluoridated for 60 years, and then they just stopped in 2017. There are 30,000 opportunities for connections with the residential, the wholesale, and they also sell to the Bryan County Rural Water District. So that's 30,000 connections there. Also, I wanted to say that community water fluoridation is endorsed by the medical community, by the pediatricians that see all the kids here in this country. It's been endorsed by all the U.S. Surgeon Generals, the World Health Organization. It is safe, cost-effective, and beneficial to public health. And in conclusion, I would just say that oral health is related to your overall health and your quality of life. And so I'm here to support the reinstatement of fluoridation here in Durant. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't have a question, but maybe a comment. And City Manager, would you elaborate on maybe a little on did we actually stop fluoridating or?
Mr. Mayor, Council, last fall, or actually last summer, there was discussion that was brought up by Mr. Gray, the former water plant superintendent, and at the time, J.J. Wilson. We were experiencing some problems and issues with the fluoride feeder itself. It should be noted that right now, when we draw water out of the Blue River, we're currently getting fluoride in the water. I think it's 0.445 per million, or 45 point. You have to.
We'll bring you some of those details in a minute.
Okay, I don't want to ruin the surprise here. But at the point we were getting ready to make a presentation to council because of the cost that was going to cost for the equipment to replace the fluoride feeder. And unfortunately, we had some changes. Steve retired. Mr. Wilson is no longer the Public Works Director. Marty Cook is. And I apologize if it kind of fell through the cracks over the last couple of months. It was brought back to my attention, and that's what it's here before tonight, because we were wanting to make a presentation before the council, before investing back into it, because there's arguments on both sides, because the water currently does have natural fluoride in it, and we would just be adding a portion to get it up to the maximum, I believe, EPA levels. So, and that's where we're here. We're here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Jason Carpenter. And he represents the dentists in this corner, minus Mr. Craig, who snuck in on us from the other side. So.
Hello, Dr. Jason Carper. I just wanted to say, if I have any questions about it, I think that the fluoride level might be 4.5 parts per million. Optimal, I think, is 7 for dental health. And I gave y'all if y'all had this out, y'all can read this, it's all about, but if y'all have any questions, let me know. There's a need for it here. As you know, with the Oak Mom thing that came up, there's a there's a lot of people who need dental work, and the majority of drinking water is bottled at this point, and you don't know where your fluoride's coming from, but we cook with the water that we're using, so that's where we get most of our fluoride from, which helps out a lot. The other thing is the kids that aren't getting it, teeth develop, there's a real shortage in Medicaid providers. So you add more cavities into people who, 30% more cavities, you're going to have 30% more people who need dental work. So where are those people going to go? But any questions? I'm, local, so you can ask me anything.
Dr. Jason, your recommendation is to fluoride.
Fluoride, yeah, absolutely. And that would be all the dentists here, fluoride, and pediatricians, and like she said, the World Health Organization, and there's a lot of information in this pamphlet that I didn't even know. So after reading it, I was like, hey, we really do need a fluoride.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions because I'm a little bit on the other side.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I went in a lot of stores and everybody looked at the bottle. I couldn't find any bottle of water that had fluoride in it.
Well,
and that was the first thing that I.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I hate this button. And I have done a little bit of research because I think this come up. And of course, it has. This is a picture of a bag of fluoride. It says poison. And I think the thing that concerns me the most about it is, first of all, it's the only chemical that's added to water for the purpose of medical treatment. So therefore, there's no consent. And you can stop me anytime you want to.
Well,
but Dr. Carper, what about nursing mothers? Mothers who nurse their babies have less fluoride than they get out of water. So if they feed their babies formula, they're getting more fluoride than they are from breast milk.
I don't know the answer to that. I know that fluoride occurs naturally. Fluoride's not a medicine, though. It's a mineral.
Right.
So, it's like salt or anything else. But, the benefits of it far outweigh any that I know of, any of the effects of it. Now, if you ate a bag of fluoride, you'd probably be in trouble. But if you ate a bag of salt, you'd probably be in trouble, too. So I don't think that's nobody would do that, of course. But just from a dental standpoint and a tooth standpoint and an overall health standpoint, it helps. But
would you say that that it does stain?
It does in really high concentrations. How they figured it out was in West Colorado, natural fluoride was so high that nobody had. The cavities level that when the guy went there was really, really low. But the teeth were a darker color, but their levels were way outside of the optimum. The 0.7, it used to be 1.0, 1.2 was the optimum. They've lowered it to 0.7 over the years. So they figured out that, hey, you don't need as much as we thought, but even that wouldn't stain teeth. You got to be up in the way up there to get that kind of staining. Did that answer your question? Sort of. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I do have one question, just not really a legal question, but you see as people drink more bottled water that children get less fluoridated water. I know some probably have fluoride. This bottle was bottled with Dallas public water.
So if it's
supply,
bottled with
so it
Dallas
probably has
public
fluoride.
water, it's got fluoride in it. Dallas is all. There's no stipulation on bottled water whether it be fluoride or not fluoridated. So if you're getting it from, most of your bottled water comes from just tap water out of Dallas that's been filtered. They don't filter out the fluoride or tap water out of wherever that's fluoridated. So most of it is not fluoridated, but you'll get some, like if it's from Dallas, it's going to be fluoridated. So. But natural spring water, you don't have any idea if it's actually from a natural spring or a natural spring that's been run through Durant's tap water, and we bottle it.
So basically what you're saying, since it's been around for 60 years, and people still have cavities. They'd have more cavities if they didn't take.
They're going to have more cavities if they did. It's been around a long time. So, I mean, we've been doing it for 60 years. So, I mean, Durant has. So, any other questions?
Thank you, Dr. Jason.
You're
Thank
welcome.
Would you like to help Mr. Craig a moment?
Yes, Dr. Danny Craig.
If you'll keep it short. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I will. Dan Craig. I would recommend approval of it. And answer to your questions, fluoride is poisonous in quantity. In the words of a physician, all medicine is poison. It's in dosage. And so, but the levels in the water, if it was poisonous, we've been doing it for over 50 years in Durant, and I think you'd have problems. Dr. Carper mentioned there are areas where the fluoride content is high, the teeth are stained, there's fewer cavities. One question or one point I can make is when I started several years ago, Dr. Bradford used to be here. Before Durant fluoridated their water, he was here when they started fluoridating, and he watched it, and he said he could tell year by year the change as they did the fluoridation. And so he said he said I could see each year as we did studies that the improvement in the dental health. The secret is the optimum level. As Dr. Carper said, it is a natural occurring element. The only way you're not going to get fluoride in bottled water probably is if it's distilled. And then I'm not even sure that would eliminate all of it. But I would strongly recommend it from a professional standpoint. It's been proven. There have been no proven faults with it that I'm aware of. Questions?
Any questions for Dr. Danny? Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Danny.
you.
Thank you.
All right, our last guest is going to be Mr. Brandon Wall. Actually, engineer, works with the city and around our water plant. He knows what we do and how long we've been doing it for the most part as well. Philip Hightower is our water treatment plant operator. Did I get that right? Superintendent.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll keep this brief. I want to talk on just a couple of points quickly. One being my engineer hat, and second being my operational hat. I'm a Class A water operator. I like your operators as well as being an engineer. First off, from an engineering standpoint, the system did go down and became, for the most part, not operational in 2017, and the decision was made to discontinue its use. The current system that you have out there won't meet current DEQ standard. So essentially, to replace the system with a new system, it's kind of a do-over. Fluoride has to be housed. We would feed it in liquid form, so we would need a bulk tank in an individual building and a bulk feeder. Total equipment costs about $95,000. That's for equipment only, and I'd say about $50,000 on the install. So you're looking at probably about $150,000 investment to reinstall the fluoride up to the DEQ standards. So that's kind of the cash ticket to put it back in place. As far as a month-to-month operational cost, it's not an extremely expensive chemical to feed. I think some probably for your level of treatment, probably about $1,500 a month to actually purchase the fluoride. Now, stepping over to the operational side of things, I appreciate what the dentist said about the need for fluoride, but me as a Class A operator, I'm opposed to putting fluoride in the water. It's the only thing we put in water that's not required to actually meet a primary treatment standard from DEQ. And I have a little bit of an issue with that. It's not hazardous to the public, but it's hazardous to your operators. It's very, very difficult to deal with as a hazardous chemical. So as an operator, I'm opposed to it. Again, appreciate what the dentist said and the benefits of it. And I guess it'd be kind of up to you guys if it was worth it to you to spend the initial capital plus the monthly operational costs to actually reinstall the fluoride. And I'll answer any questions that anyone has.
Philip, how long have you been out there?
19 years.
Okay.
19 years.
And we've fluoridated all those years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No issues, no?
With the equipment.
Just the equipment?
It was put in 1982. I put a fan switch in it to regulate it
Yeah, ceiling.
because all of the parts are obsolete for the machine.
I see.
And I had to get a ceiling fan switch and wire it in where I could regulate the feed.
And I actually forgot about.
Yes,
When you said it's hazardous to the person that's operating it, what do they have to do? Do they have to wear a mask or a?
Yes, sir, we do. We use sodium silica fluoride, which is kind of like a sand, a powder, and we pour it into a hopper every day. And that dust, we wear masks to do that, but the dust settles on everything. Anytime you walk in that building, there's particles in there.
So you have to dress accordingly
Yes, sir.
each time?
Now, did you say we would change from that though? We would use liquid
Yes.
form. So, I mean, we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Where
right?
we were currently feeding our fluoride was in our Weir troughs. 2 years ago, we rebuilt our clarifiers and put brand new galvanized weirs in there. I have a 15-foot stretch where the fluoride has taken the galvanized off of my weirs. What would last 15 years is probably going to last 8 to 10. I'll have to replace those because of the rust. We would like to, if we do follow through with this and start feeding again, we need to put it in our clear well at the end of our process. And that's where he's coming up with using the liquid
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, go. I'm finished.
If you purchase this, how long are we looking at that being installed and up to running?
It's a fairly quick turnaround. We have to get the equipment permitted through DEQ, but it's probably looking at 90 days. We could have the equipment here, and probably in 5 months we could be up and feeding fluoride. One thing that I actually failed to mention was the levels of fluoride in the Blue River, and we've seen those. I've seen them as high as 0.89 in the Blue River. That was when we were doing the water testing for one of your industrial prospects, and we were testing, and they were concerned about the 0.89 fluoride level. And I called the water plant and said, "What level are you guys feeding? You know, they're at a 0.89. I'm wondering if any of it's being taken out through your distribution system." And they said the fluoride feeder's off. We're not feeding fluoride at all, and it was 0.89. Currently, Philip's done quite a bit of testing over the past month, and it averages about a 0.5 is about what the fluoride level averages. And it's from 0.33 to 0.61 is what we've seen over the past 30 days. You have naturally occurring fluoride within the Arbuckle-Simpson aquifer. So depending on how the aquifer is recharging, I suspect if you're getting a lot of recharge through the aquifer and a lot of kind of flush through the aquifer, the fluoride level is going to go up. That's probably what we were seeing. I don't remember the time of the year. That's probably what we were seeing when we had the 0.89 fluoride level. So the fluoride kind of varies around, it probably hangs around that 0.7 sometimes. I'd say typically it's probably on the 0.4 to 0.5 range. So, we're adding essentially 0.2 parts per million to get it up to that 0.7 optimal level.
Mr. Wall, as a water operator with considerable experience, what percentage of the municipalities do you see that fluoridate their water? I mean, is it virtually all of them?
I'd say it's probably 60% do and 40% don't. We've seen kind of a move over the last probably 5 to 10 years of people getting away from fluoridation, and I think a lot of that is just due to the operators not wanting to. But I'd say probably 60% of Oklahoma is probably fluoridated. Basically, none of your European Union countries are fluoridated anymore. They've for the most part taken it out of the European Union, but we still, a lot of communities, and particularly across the U.S., are still fluoridated.
Yes, sir, Dr. Denny.
Just as a comment, when I was talking to the state was the one that made me aware, and the lady that monitors the state, who knows the drop, have some water sample things in the state. I can help them stop fluoridating. So even though we do have some, the state was able to monitor them. So what we have naturally in the Blue River is up to the level.
Okay. Okay. Philip, anything else, sir? Brandon?
No, sir, not for me.
Okay. Council have any, or trustees have any questions?
I think Mr. Winfrey had one comment.
Okay.
Just speaking to as to how much, about 70% of Oklahoma is fluoridated, on the public water systems. Nationally, it's at about 75%. And in Oklahoma, our largest cities fluoridate. Oklahoma City fluoridates, Tulsa fluoridates, Stillwater, Norman, Ada. There's so many that fluoridate. And we have had several, a couple that we have worked with, Purcell, and stopped and then started back again. Lawton did the same thing. They stopped for about a year, and then some local advocates, and they turned it around and they started back up again. I mean, it's common for them to systems to stop that have been doing it for 50 years. Things do break. Things have to be updated. They have to, make some adjustments sometimes to the equipment. But mostly people, it's holding pretty steady here in Oklahoma, and we're really proud of, getting up to 70% of the ones that can.
Okay.
I thought I'd clarify that for you. Any questions?
Any questions? Is that it, Marty?
So that's all of our speakers for tonight. Thank you. Tip your waitresses. I'll be clear on this, though. I wrote this in a way that it was a discussion with a possible action item. I just wanted you to recognize that, to instruct the staff to move forward or not to.
I don't know that would require a motion, but would it, Tom? I mean, we could instruct the staff.
Without a motion, yeah. My point is, we're probably going to sit on our hands unless you guys kind of tell us which way to go, if you make those decisions, so.
Well,
yeah. Well, we're going to have to, even if we look into this, and that's where I'm coming from, to update the process and redo the we'd have to bring RFAPs through and contracts and all that. So, I mean, if this was a move forward, we're going to be back multiple times. If you were satisfied and wanted to move on, we could do that pretty easily. But
so a motion is in order. Okay. Are we ready for a motion? I just can't
It
help
could
but
be a
think
motion to direct staff to proceed with. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I have a question. As far as budget, we're good with the cost of this. It's budget wise to work that in.
I believe we can absorb this.
We don't have funds currently appropriated for it, but I'm sure we could find a place to.
And if not, we could, by the timeline, everything that's set up, we could get it in the next fiscal year's
in the
budget.
next capital improvement budget.
I can't help but think we need to follow the recommendations of the experts. And
I know I'm out of order, but could I ask a question?
well, we don't have a motion yet, so I'll allow a question.
He was, if I understood him right, he was mentioning using the liquid. What would be the environmental impact if they had a major spill?
It would be in a double wall line tank inside an enclosure on site, and that's part of the reason it would be such a cost. Is whether it's liquid or powder, we got to protect the environment from it wherever we're distributing it as well. That's the part of the process that would be engineered. We'd have to go through DEQ for permission and some of those things.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks for the question. Are we out of time for a motion?
So I may butcher this motion. So if I do, just fix me. Move to approve, instructing staff to move forward with procedures to purchase necessary equipment and chemicals as required.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the fluoride system improvements. Any discussion or further discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Grube,
If you're gonna be back next month. I guess aye, because I'm sure everybody else is gonna vote aye.
Trustee Dills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you all for your presence this evening and for your input. Anything under information items?
No, sir.
Hearing none, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Clerk or the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Gruby?
Aye.
Trustee Dills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Aye, we are adjourned out of the Durant City Utilities Authority. Let the record show it's 8:41. I'll call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Durant Airport Authority of February the 13th, 2018. Ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Trustee Hawthorne is absent. Trustee Gruby?
Here.
Trustee Dills?
Here.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Here.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Here, for the record, we have a quorum, one member absent. First order of business is consent items 1A. Do we have a motion? Need a motion on consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Gruby?
Aye.
Trustee Dills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. Item 2 requires no action. We have no citizen comments. Under administration, consider 4A, consider granting mayor or the chairman permission to sign amendment number 4 to contract number C-2015-04 with LBR Inc., contingent upon FAA final approval of the environmental assessment. Mr. Marty.
Oh, welcome back, guys. So this is, and this one and piece B also go together. And we're going to be talking about the same project. This is our runway extension project at the airport, which is on an FAA grant with some matching money coming from some outside partners here locally. The amendment to the contract that you're looking at here is to start the design process on the actual runway extension. The design fee has been negotiated by myself, by the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, and by Municipal Assurance Group. We've all gone through the contract and worked the negotiations. We got it within the 10% range that the FAA required. And so now we're looking to get this contract signed. We're trying to make sure we stay on top of the ball on this one, Mr. Chairman. And the environmental is not yet completed with its final signature. And so the day that it's completed with the final signature, you can actually sign the contract. We expect that to happen anytime. We actually expected it to happen this week. And so we wanted to make sure and get this in front of you. We won't have you sign it tomorrow. We'll have you sign it when it becomes available after everything's been read and understood.
So this is just a motion to approve the signature.
Yeah, it's a motion to approve to allow you to sign when it becomes available.
You want me to? Consider a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Gruby?
Aye.
Trustee Dills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. Item B, 4B, consider approval of request for authorization to purchase RFAP 2018-124 for professional services for the airport runway extension project to LBR Inc. in the amount of $328,550.
So along with that contract you're going to be signing, this is the money to actually pay them for doing the job.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Gruby?
Aye.
Trustee Dills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson,
Aye, motion carries. Item 4C, consider approval of request for authorization to purchase, or FAP, number 2018-125, for an airport service tug in the amount of $30,000. Mr. Marty.
So the tug we have currently at the airport is several years old and in dire need of rehabilitation. We can't take it offline to do that. It's not going to make the season, we're afraid. So we have found a new tug. This is a used tug. These are kind of a specialty item. I'll give you an example. I looked in the entire United States and I found 3 for sale, all different years, all different states of rehabilitation. This one is in Kansas. It's been completely rehabilitated, brand new paint job, brand new $6,000 worth of Motive batteries, and we're going to have to go get it. But if we can get up there and get the right deal, we've already negotiated him down. You see this request for 30. Well, I've made it down to 26 with this so far. So we're still working the price a little bit. We're gonna try to get this purchased for the airport. This is something that'll grow with us. The current tug we have will not pull the kind of weight that the newer airplanes and jets that are coming to our airport are requiring. And so this would be one we could use for another 25 years. I mean, they don't go bad very often, and when they do, you can rebuild them. So,
Would you be planning to R&R the existing one too?
yeah, I think I've been talking with Dwayne, and I think we will take it out of service and put it in rehab as we get an opportunity, get it running again. Probably would be more convenient to use it on the smaller jets anyway, and just save this newish one for the bigger jets. But we'll work those details out.
Sounds like a plan.
Dwayne, will this, I'm gonna ask the airport expert, will this one get us past where we are now? Like to the next, you may have just said that and
I did.
I've been here
You
all
weren't
stinking
listening.
night, man.
Trust me,
All
I know.
night.
I started here at 7:30
I
this
just,
morning.
all the way up to the length that our runway is gonna be.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that point.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
That's why we're buying this one.
Okay.
That's why we're not buying
Hey,
another
there was
one
only
like we
3. I
already
just want to
own.
make sure we got the right one, you know?
We're stepping up to
All
the
right.
next category.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Motion
Move to approve.
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the secretary record the vote, please.
Trustee Groby,
Aye.
Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock,
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson,
Aye, motion carries. Dwayne, you have anything you want to report, or?
Oh, now he gets to talk. Sorry about that, buddy.
Just basically about the Laura Nolan. She was a radio operator at the airport. She passed away.
Saw that. Yeah.
Long time fan of the airport, that one.
Yeah.
So. Have we decided, I mean, the avionics business, is it still operating or? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Dwayne. Anything under new business? Hearing none, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion and a second. The secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Groby,
Aye.
Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock,
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance, and thank you, council members.
Regardless of how you voted, I appreciate
To know that, Jerry, thank you.